Hello, this is a video on how to make your own custom reminders in this data completion reminder section on the home page. Remember, the point of the data completion reminder section is to notify users of things they have to do either like right now or really soon. So this is data that needs to be entered into the database. Do this now. The goal for every user should be to have as little things as possible in this data completion reminder section. If you're intending to just kind of let them know about things that are ahead in the future, you should be using this date reminder section instead. Okay, so let's talk about how to edit these settings. A site administrator will have this link to edit the settings. And now here are the instructions on how to edit these settings and how to make reports that will be fed into these settings. Here is where I tell you that this configuration is really hard. You should not feel bad about not being able to do all this stuff. Sometimes we add functionality in the database just to make it easier for us as a staff to kind of do these things for you. But and we know that there are some people that are capable of doing this, and that's great. But if you're not, don't worry. Ask us for help. We are very happy to help. We'll charge for you to help with this kind of stuff, but I would think that it's worth it to you just to have our quick advice on how to do some of these things. Um, Also, you need to be, if you're doing all this, you kind of need to be really good at these all-in-one reports. So go check out the all-in-one report documentation and video, training video, and kind of get some experience there before even attempting any of this stuff. All right, we're going to do two pretend reminders here. The first one is we're going to pretend that we want to know, we want to absolutely know who's employed, like the employment status of, people of certain races and certain educations, right? So it's something like really weird that we want to make sure that we get this a certain question filled in. We're going to go make a brand new all-in-one report for this. And the first thing that we probably want to do is just start off with isolating all the clients that a particular user has seen recently. All right, so we don't want to remind a user who, about every client in the organization that needs this question filled in, because maybe this user has no idea who that client is. So a good way to start would be start off by dragging this active client block in here and say we want to do active by a particular user. Which user do we want? We're eventually going to want current user. But if you are a database administrator and you don't do direct service work for staff, for clients, then selecting current user is going to make it so you see no results, right? So instead, you might want to just pick like demo user to begin with, or just some other person that you will see data for in your organization. And then once you're happy with how the report is showing the data, then come back, switch it to current user. Your column results will go down to nothing. You'll see no results, but when you've got this report set up for other people, they will see results based off of their own user account. So on my account here, we've got plenty of people here to work with, so I will just leave that to current user. And maybe we want to see people who this user has served in the past 90 days. We would definitely not want to. So this should be by default. Is it 90? Yes, 90 days in the past. But you're not going to want to leave this as 90 days. Probably you're probably going to want to. Not going to want to leave this as an exact date. You're probably going to want to use a date formula to say we want to do the current month, the current date, minus 90 days ago, and then the current year. All right, so check out the all-in-one report documentation for more on date formulas. It's a super powerful way of making these reports and having the dates kind of change as we go along. So like tomorrow, it's going to be a different time frame. It's going to be 90 days ago based off of what the current date is tomorrow, and then the next date. And then we can say from 90 days ago to date year. So that's the date formula for today. All right, so these are all the people that this user has served in the past 90 days. And we had some, pretty particular conditions that we wanted to isolate by. We wanted to say we only want people of certain races. So let's kind of just go through and do something like that. So that's narrowing it down. Maybe we said we also wanted people of certain education status. So I'll add that really quick too. So maybe we want to know like everybody who's got college degrees, we want to know if they are employed. And so it's saying we've got 3 people here, so that's fine. And now let's take a look, just for the heck of it, at their employment status. And we actually have lots of people who have this answered. So we actually don't want these people on our reminder list, all right? Because we only want to see people who have this question missing. I'm going to go actually make this person missing right now so that we end up getting something. So we are going to add another condition and say, I also want to get people whose employment status does not equal any value. All right, so does not equal any value is the same way as saying employment status is missing. There's nothing there, does not equal any value. All right, so we have one person who meets all this criteria, and her name is Alice. Great. We are done setting up this report. Again, every user who this report will show different people depending on who's viewing it, because it's set to show us only clients who are active by the current user that we're logged in as. So let's save this report, and we'll call it like need employment status. And we recommend that you create a folder, an all-in-one report folder called homepage reminders. So we already have one created here, but if that didn't exist, you would go create a new folder and make a new one called that. And also recommend that instead of saying that all users have full access to this report, that you change it so that site administrators have full access to the report, and then all other users can view it. So that way, if somebody's poking around in the database, they don't come through here and change something on the report, these settings, that's going to screw everything up. So now that report is saved. We can come back to our data completion reminder settings and reload and set need employment status as a report that should show up. And here we want to say, okay, who should see this? And it sounds fine. Everybody should see this. If you've served a client and we don't have their employment status for all that, then there we go. All right, that's our report. And now let's go to the home page and see how this looks. There we go. Need employment status, Alice. I can click on her name and I get taken to her basic information page, and then this user can go through and navigate and say, okay, I want to change her status to yes, I know she is employed. Save changes. And now when I come back to the home page and reload, that person is off our list. And if nobody is on our data completion reminder list for that reminder, we're not going to even see that header. Because again, the goal is we want to just get this all cleared out, get all the data that we're supposed to be getting in as a user cleared out. Okay, we're going to do another example, and this one kind of like ups the intensity of complexity here and is actually probably more in line with the kind of things that we get as requests. So again, just bail out of this video anytime you want. Totally understandable. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to suppose that we have in our move out section a question called 6-month follow-up. And we want to make sure that we have somebody comes in here, clicks yes, and says the status after 6 months was safely housed, whatever. I'm sure you all can come up with a lot better questions than this thing I thought of in 8 seconds, but I hope you get the idea. We want to have that question filled out for people, but only 6 months after they've moved out. So let's make a new report for that. Go to all one report section. Give me a new one. And let's start off by saying, show me move and move outs where the move out date is greater than 6 months ago. So we can do the current month minus 6, the current date, the current year. And these are all the people who moved out 6 months ago. Let's do some double checking here. I want to add in their move out date just to see. And now that I look at this and I realize actually these are dates that are not 6 months ago. These are within the past 6 months. What's going on here? And that's because we've made a mistake that I make all the time, and that is, oh, it's actually a less than instead of a greater than. When I said it out loud, move out date greater than 6 months ago, that made sense. But now I realize that that's getting us dates that are higher than 6 months ago, which is actually not what we want. We want dates that are lower than 6 months ago. And now that I've changed this, now we're seeing things that we should be seeing. These are the dates from a long, long time ago. In fact, too long ago. I don't want to have reminders from this person who moved out 8 years ago. So we're going to add another condition. We're going to say, actually, move out date, this time it is definitely going to be greater than, let's say, like 2 years ago. So month, date, year, minus 2. All right, so now these are only the people who moved out more than 6 months ago, but forgetting all the people who moved out more than 2 years ago. That way, maybe we don't care about this new question that we added in from people who moved out more than 2 years ago, because we're not going to run data off of them anyways. Now we're looking at this and we're seeing, well, this person, what's going on here? They've got multiple move outs. This is because these are probably actually not real move outs. These are probably them switching rooms. So here we want to sort, inner sort, ascending, just to be sure that we're going from this date to that date. And now we want to have this be just the last date. So combine into the very last date. So now that is their move out date. And the reason why we got that all set like that is because the specifications for these data completion reminders is to have the first column be the client name, which kind of is there by default. That's a freebie there. And the second column, which is optional, so anything in the second column will show up as an italic subtext next to the client name. So let's save this report now and just kind of see how that looks like. So we're going to say save the report now, and we'll put this in our homepage reminder section, and we can say 6-month follow-ups. And again, we're going to do site administrators can edit this, and then all users can view it. Save those changes. Come back to the data completion reminders. We'll have to reload for it to recognize this new thing we just added. 6-month follow-ups. And this one, we don't want all users to see this. We only want people in the shelter to see this. Maybe it's something we're only doing with shelter, or only doing in our residential programs. All right, save those changes. And now when we go to the home page and we reload, we see our 6-month follow-ups, and here's all those names we saw in that report, and here's whatever was in the second column. So it's not telling us what this is. There's no like extra thing over here saying, oh, in parentheses is going to be their move out date. But hopefully you're picking some sort of field in this report where when users are seeing this extra thing over here, it makes sense to them what they're seeing. All right, I'm seeing dates all over the place here. I want to change this to be sort by. Now we're going to do outer sort, ascending, and now we're getting like the most far away ones coming up first. All right, so we're doing pretty great. All right, we can just reload. Here's our entries, and we can come through and say, well, Jane, I want to go to her move-in and move-outs, and we did conduct a 6-month follow-up, and she is safely housed. Edit. And so now her name should be off of our list. Well, for her second entry, whatever. So the whole goal is we want to make it so that we don't have to go over here and click to see somebody's extra move in. We want to be taken right to this record. Say like, boom, this happened, that happened. Oh, I know why these people are still showing up, because we have to actually add in a whole other condition to our criteria here. We don't want to just see people who moved out. We want to see people who moved out and 6-month follow-up conducted is not equal to yes. All right. So now those people that I was kind of embarrassed about still showing up in this list, now they're actually gone. Okay. So that's kind of a key thing of any report that you set up for the data completion reminders. There always has to be something in here that makes it so that when the user does what they're supposed to do, the name gets taken off of a list. So in this case, it's when they do what they're supposed to do, they should be clicking 6-month follow-up completed, yes, and then that client should be off of their list. So back to the other thing that I was saying that we want to do, and that is we want to be taken immediately to the very specific record that that we should. We don't have to want to be like jumping around to this. By default, it takes us to the client's basic information page. We want to go right here. All right, this is like the top of the tops of complex. So, and then we're done. So if you feel like you're done, this is no more for you, then just close this video now and don't bother with any of this. Okay, so let's dissect what's happening up here. We're at EmpowerDB. First of all, good choice. Then we're at the demo version of EmpowerDB. This will say your site ID. And then we're at a specific page in your version of EmpowerDB. We're at the client point in time section. We're at here it's called, the page is slot 4. That's just what this ended up being called. We're viewing this client's record. Karen McDermott is apparently client number 292. And then something to know about that is it's actually not, this link is not specifying exactly which entry we're viewing. We went here and it is assuming that we want to see the latest entry, but that's actually not being specified in the link. So we should probably have the link be specified to be this specific entry should show up. So one kind of trick that I do for that is I kind of go to another entry in the past and then flip back to another entry in the future. And now this link will say it's client 292, ID entry 158. All right, so if we go back to our report, actually go back to our settings, it's saying the third column, which is optional. We can set this as the exact page in EmpowerDB that we want this reminder to take us to. And it's letting us know that we're probably going to want to use a formula column here. So let's add in a formula column. And we can just start off by saying, exactly this. We want the formula to be and then if I open this up, it's showing the combine into is sum. It's guessing that we want to add together whatever inside of there, but we don't. We actually want it to be whatever the last entry is. And it's still not showing up because of a funny thing that I have to do right now. So we actually don't want to always go to 292, right? That was just Karen. And we don't always want to go to entry 158. That was just Karen's specifically, was that Corinne? Whatever, her specific move out entry. We want to go to an entry that's specific for every single client and entry. So first thing we need to do is we need to add in from the move in and move outs the system entry ID. So now this is everybody's, let's combine into last. Everybody's, when she moved out on February 19th, that move in and move out entry was 134. So now what we can do is we can add this formula and we can say instead of 292, we're going to join together. So, and check out the documentation here for clarification on what this is, but we have a bit of text here in quotes, period, to say we're joining it with, what are we joining it with? We're joining it with this client ID. Then we're joining that with and ID entry equals, but we don't want 154 here. We want to join that with system entry ID here. All right. Again, if you're watching this video and it makes sense to you, maybe like send me an email to be like, thank you, Stephen. You explained this so well. And now I know how to make formula columns that make parts of URLs. I don't anticipate I'm ever going to get that email, but just in case, there it is. Of course, I just lost everything I just did telling that joke. So let's go recreate it really fast. All right, done. And now this is a link that will go to everybody's specific entry for their move in and move out. And now when I go back to this home page and I reload, when I click here on Beatrice, I get taken right to Beatrice's move in and move out entry. And then when I say yes, I conducted the follow-up and she is safely housed and I edit it, it knows to close that down right away and take her off of my list. Everything is working great. All right, that was everything. 21 minutes of amazing instructions on how to do this super complicated thing. Please ask us for help if you need any help doing this stuff. There should be a support category specifically for homepage reminders. Please find that one and let us know what you're trying to do. Thanks so much. Good luck.